So I'm back with needing a system. So with everything, having a system in place is the best way to ensure that your process is streamlined and that you keep up with the photos that you have. I'm sure you can think of things within your job, within your home, with your children, with your spouse, different systems that you've created or that you follow if you haven't created them, that let things become streamlined, that let things become automatic and not get way behind on those things. So I love this quote right here. For the longest time, I thought I needed to be more organized. Now I know I just needed less stuff. So that is the biggest problem, in my opinion, with today's photos, is that we have too many of them. So no matter what your goal is for your images, you need some sort of system. Without it, we're going to get behind, we're going to become overwhelmed, and we're going to put it off to the next day, the next year, the next 5 years, so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about our suggested steps here for better photo organization. So culling, sorting, printing, and saving. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. Culling your images. If that's a word you're not familiar with, it's a term that's very familiar to many photographers. So culling images is a process of selecting your favorites and deleting the rest. So every time I, for example, have a photo shoot or a session I do for another family or another individual, the first thing I do after uploading all those photos to my computer is go through and cull them. So I'll go through and get rid of the obvious ones that I would not provide that client. So things like, hair on the face, closed eyes, just an expression that was a little bit off, or maybe, just didn't come out the way that I hoped for. So that is a really important process for someone like me. Otherwise, I would get completely overwhelmed with the number of files that I have to go to. But it's equally as important for you. So by learning and creating a system and establishing a time that you go through your photos on a regular basis to select your favorites and delete the rest is really important. This goes back to the quote on the previous slide. So it's not about more organization, it's about having less to organize. Okay, so we're going to create a streamlined process that allows you to print and save what you really love while also reducing your print cost and freeing up some storage space for you. Okay, so I want you to think about this. You obviously don't have to tell me, but decide how often feels right for you to cull your photos. And what's really helpful, I think, is to use some idle time for this. So if you look at your week, and right now, our weeks are changing by the day, right? We don't really know what things are looking at. But if you think of your more typical schedule, your more typical life, where is some regular idle time in your week? Is it in the carpool pickup line for 5 minutes a day? Is it waiting for an appointment that you wait for your child to finish? Where is some idle time that you're probably on your phone anyways, if we're being honest, that you could use to go through your phone and delete the photos? My suggestion is to pick a consistent time so that you know you're going to do it, and to really be aggressive. You don't need 10 photos of the same scene with a slightly different expression. You don't, trust me. Pick your favorite and move on. Delete the rest. I am a very aggressive culler. I take a lot of photos of my children. Almost every scene that I photograph, I keep one. I keep my favorite one because I photograph so many things that if I kept more than that, it's overwhelming. And by having just one from one certain situation, with rare exception, of course, I treasure that one because it's the only one I have, okay? So if you're working with images on your computer, perhaps ones that you've either uploaded from your phone or you've uploaded from a camera, you can also integrate culling into your upload process. So every single time I load photos, whether they're for a client or my own personal use, onto my computer, I ensure that I at least have the time right then to go through and do some culling. If I load the pictures onto my computer and just say I'm going to put them all on there, next week I'll go through and cull them, I'm never going to do it. So I only upload photos to my computer when I have the time right then to very quickly go through them and say delete, 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 keep, delete, delete, keep. Okay, so make sure that you have that time when you're uploading photos to your computer. In order to not feel overwhelmed, culling has to become your new favorite habit. Okay. All right, so sorting. There are a lot of options for sorting your images. What you choose, again, is going to depend on how many images you're taking and what your goals are for those images. So that's something that is a personal decision for you. You can sort your images by month, you could sort them by season, you could sort them by occasion, you could sort them by year. I currently sort my images by year for my personal photos. I have a folder on my computer that every time I put photos onto my computer, as I said, I save my favorites and I put those into a desktop folder that's labeled for this specific year. So that folder is getting constantly updated with my most favorite photos from 2020, okay? So that by the end of the year, I have a really nice selection of the photos that I plan to put into my annual album, okay? Because that's something that's important to me. So you can sort images by month, season, special occasion, year, whatever's working for you. That may change depending on the stage of life that you're in as well. When my kids were younger and changing more often, and I took even more photos, I was sorting them by month. And I know people who sort by special occasion. It just depends on what's going to work for you. So pick your method. Put it on your calendar. So just like any habit, it's going to take some time to be part of your routine. So take some time, maybe once a month, maybe the first of the month is, oh, this is the month that I'm going to go through and sort the photos on my phone into a couple different folders. Maybe a to print folder or a to send to mom folder, or whatever the case may be. That's become a regular thing and you're not going to get too behind on that. Taking the time to sort your smaller batches of images will make any plans for printing easier to accomplish, okay? If we're waiting until we have years of photos, and I am going to address that for those of you who are years behind, don't worry. But if you have years of photos to catch up on, then it's harder to go through those photos in bigger batches. It's just more of a time commitment. So by establishing the habit, even moving forward, if you're years behind, we'll talk about that later, but moving forward, let's establish this habit of going through and sorting them on maybe a monthly basis or whatever feels good for you, okay? Okay, I'm gonna pause here and record the next video in just a moment.